Hi, this is Molly, and welcome back to my YouTube channel as we're going to take a look at another aspect that was in effect for those born between 1970 to 1973-ish. So this will depend, of course, on your own natal birth chart, but it's over those 2 to 3 years that we had Uranus in Libra opposing Chiron in Aries. And over those few years, both planets went back and forth retrograde, and then they also moved ahead. So this particular chart is in April 1972. But keep in mind, they were dancing together off and on for a few years in the early 70s. So let's break this down as well as talk about some of the big activity periods that have happened for those with Uranus in Libra opposing Chiron in Aries. So Uranus is the energy of freedom, doing something your own way, wanting your space, wanting the ability to trust yourself, to follow yourself. It's the energy of being unconventional, of spontaneous, electrifying, fast moving. And in Libra, the energy of partnerships, it's how you work with people. It's how you form connections, form those relationships. And basically that you're here learning to do relationships differently. Now, this could be differently from other lifetimes or just an area of your life where you're having a lot of experiences in relationships, what works for you, what honors you, what allows you the freedom or the space that you need. This is a very unpredictable energy as well. So Uranus in Libra can be about quickly meeting someone, like that fast connection, instant chemistry. It can also be quick breakups, things ending very briskly, things being over in the blink of an eye. There isn't a lot of stability with Uranus. So this energy then of relationships, of how you share with others, is opposing Chiron in Aries. And the Chiron in Aries is understanding more of who you are, what you need, having the courage to trust yourself, to be independent, to listen to your own needs, to understand what is important to you, and gathering the strength and courage in this lifetime to do something on your own terms, to look at where you need independence, and to also heal these parts of yourself that maybe you have unconsciously projected or put onto relationships through unconscious expectations of others to maybe provide something or give you something when really you're learning how to do it for yourself. So this is an energy of relationship dynamics that's about healing the relationship with yourself, understanding who you are, what you need, where it's important to do something on your own terms, even if it can feel easier to work with others or to go to someone else. Or maybe this is even like a sense of, well, I'd rather share this instead of doing it on my own because I'm afraid. I'm afraid to go it alone. So this can set up relationship dynamics that are unconscious, where some of the lower expressions of Libra become dominant in relationships. So that can be projecting, codependence, comparison, expecting others to be a certain way, maybe even having some kind of ideal or some kind of desire to be in relationships so that you don't have to look at parts of yourself. So then you bring the energy back here to this Chiron in Aries, where you're learning how to do things on your own and you're learning how to stand on your own that can feel uncomfortable at first. Now, in this energy, that makes relationships a big deal because there can be this back and forth that can be very unconscious. There can be the patterns or the loops where relationships start quickly and then they end quickly. There can be parts of ourselves that you're learning about through others, through that unconscious projection, looking at where you've put energy onto others that's really your own. So you have this back and forth. Now it's an opposition, so there can be a seesaw effect where sometimes you're all in this Aries energy or this Chiron energy, and then other times you're all over here in the Uranus energy. This can be erratic and unstable. There can be a lot of relationship turnover here, depending on your chart, depending on how the energy has shown up for you. Now, there are then two important times in your life when these energies are the strongest. The first is during the Uranus opposition, and that happens in your mid-40s. So that's when Uranus has traveled around and is going to be opposing natal Uranus. It happens for everyone, again, in their mid-40s, but for you, it's conjunct or working with this Chiron to break out of these habits or patterns where there could have been something that required you to go it alone, that said, I can't do anything for anybody else. I have to do it on my own, and I'm scared, and I'm not certain, and I don't know what that even looks like, where there's a removal of other people's energy during the opposition. Now, this would have been when Uranus was in Aries, and depending on when you were born, that could have been 2012 until 2016, 2017. Again, it's going to depend for everyone's chart, but around that period of time, there would have been something that came apart or fell apart because the universe was showing you how to do something on your own, and that you needed to call the energy back, call it all back to you. And the energy would have been in the house where you have this Chiron in Aries. So you would have been required to really get stronger in your sense of self. And it could have been, again, like a relationship breaking up, something ending, something just no longer resonating, no longer fitting. This can also show up through work dynamics where, it depends again on the house and of course your natal chart, but it could have been something that just needed to come back into balance, to come back to yourself, where you were really meant to discover more of your own abilities, your own gifts, and what you needed. And so there would have been a retraction away from relationships in your mid-40s, because this energy of the opposition, the Uranus opposition, brings you back to what you haven't seen before in yourself. It's an awakening into more of who you are. And in that Aries energy, it's your sense of self. It's your independence. It's standing on your own. It's starting something brand new in your life based on your own energy and on your own terms. But because of Chiron, it could have felt very vulnerable and insecure, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I hope I can figure this out, because there would not have been anyone else to really go to or lean on. So that would have been a big time in your life. And then the other two periods of time that I want to talk about would have been when transiting Pluto in Capricorn squared Uranus and squared Chiron, and this would have potentially been 2015 to 2018. Again, it depends when you were born. But in your natal chart, whenever that transiting Pluto in Capricorn squared Uranus in Libra and this Chiron in Aries, something ended permanently, and this could have been a significant relationship ending. Now, as an anecdotal story, one of my good friends was born in 1973. Her birthday is May 1973, and she had a devastating, heartbreaking relationship breakup in her life around 2017, 2018, when that transiting Pluto in Capricorn squared Chiron and squared Uranus. Huge life change for her. A very significant relationship came to an end because that Pluto square was testing it, where it either has to transform and grow or it's over and it is destroyed. It changes you permanently. This relationship changed her permanently, changed her heart, changed her understanding of herself and what she needs in relationships. So that was a significant time for those of you born 1970-ish to 1973. Whenever that Pluto in Capricorn squared these two planets, it probably was tumultuous. There would have been, again, big changes, permanent endings, something very deep, very significant. And with the Pluto transits, you can't rush through it. You just have to ride it and go with these waves. It's part of how we really go into the deeper growth and the deeper work that we're ready to undertake. Then we also had Saturn in Capricorn squaring this same point for you. And that was in maybe 2019, 2020. And that Saturn in Capricorn squaring these points in your chart, squaring Uranus and squaring this Chiron, would have been very heavy. So maybe it was 2018, 2019. It could have been like a heavy choice point, a heavy ending, a sense of something has served its purpose. We have to make a new decision. Where's this going? What's the commitment level? Kind of these bigger questions that are related to relationships. And again, this could show up through various areas of your life, but this is the relationship axis here, where it's the energy you share with others and your relationship with yourself and what you've been learning about relationships that has maybe even thrown you off kilter. This Uranus, again, it's erratic. It's spontaneous. It can be exciting. It can be very exciting. But what you're learning is that you can't sacrifice what you need. And you're learning to understand, well, what do I need? And who am I in these connections? And what do I need to receive back? Because the healthy relationships are in balance. There's giving and receiving. There's reciprocity. But there could be a sense that you're like, all in, I'm doing everything, I'm giving it my all. And then that doesn't work. And there's like a breakup, or there's something that you're like, I can't do this anymore because I've given too much and I didn't give anything to myself. So you want to be aware of these energies in yourself because you're learning how to do relationships differently in this lifetime. Now, for some of you, you also will have this Pluto in Libra. In this chart, again, this is 1972, Pluto is moving back and forth. And so here you can see at the late degrees of Virgo. But if you also have Pluto in Libra, that adds more to what you're really understanding about relationships and how to do it differently and the kinds that can grow with you, that are transformative for the long term, that help you continually understand more about yourself, more about what works for you, more about the patterns that you're changing and elevating in this lifetime. So the other thing to have a heads up about is that you may be approaching your Chiron return in the next number of years. And that happens between 49 and 51 years of age. For every single person on the planet, you have your Chiron return. So you're going to have your Chiron return to Aries. And it is a checking in point on what you need, what you've been learning about your sense of self, who you are, what you've been healing and coming to terms with around your own identity, around standing on your own 2 feet, around independence, doing something on your own terms, trying something new. This is a fresh beginning point here. So the Chiron return between 49 and 51 years of age is going to bring up these energies of the Chiron return, where you look back on your life. You look back on what you've experienced, what you've been through, what you've accomplished, what you have achieved, and then you look forward at what needs to change, what you're ready to do differently, what new dreams are rising up, what you want next. But keep in mind, for you, it's also opposing your Uranus in Libra. And so this is where there could be some more new understandings around relationships. And because the energy is going to be over here on this Aries side of your chart, the energy is stronger in what you need, where you're going, and who supports you. Where maybe there's been this unconscious need of, I want to be in a relationship, I want to have the thrill, the excitement, the connection, the sharing, all the pros of relationships. But what you're learning is that you also need reciprocity. You need to make sure the energy comes back to support who you are. And this might be interesting to reflect on, because the Chiron energy tends to be weaker until it's brought to our attention, until you start to have this awareness of, wait a minute, I need people who are in my corner, or who see me for who I am, or who understand what I want, what I'm creating. And it's that Aries independence where you could say, I don't want anyone, or I don't want any relationships unless they give back to me, unless there's a balance, unless there's a healthy reciprocity, unless they see me. They see me. So I feel like this Chiron return that you're going to be having or having now is significant for where you've changed and grown through relationships and what you're complete with. I mean, this is no going back. This is understanding that the correct relationships for you will have independence, will honor your needs, will give you the space you need. And yet there's something here where you're continually having to check in with yourself and make sure that the partners, the friends, the connections, the people in your life want you to be you. So the Chiron return in Aries is bringing in new parts of yourself, a new starting point, a new understanding of who you are now at these years in your life. I feel like there's a no going back. I feel like there's been significant changes in relationships. In fact, there could even be a sense that maybe you haven't had the stable relationship or the true partnership, or that there's been a back and forth here. Maybe you've had multiple types of relationships. Maybe there's been periods where you've just been very much on your own, and yet you want the connection. And again, it feels like it could have been like relationships could be tumultuous. I'm going to put that in the past tense. Relationships were tumultuous. But with the Saturn in Aquarius energy in 2021 into 2023, the Saturn in Aquarius is going to trine Uranus in Libra and sextile Chiron in Aries, and it's going to bring in something that you do differently, that you see differently. Maybe you've learned through hard knocks and big lessons. Maybe there's, again, been a lot in these parts of yourself that you're understanding for the first time. And I feel like the Saturn in Aquarius is going to help with stabilizing and with a sense of more higher self-knowingness, a higher sense of knowingness about who you are and what you want. So keep in mind, that if you have any natal planets that trine this Chiron, so any natal planets in Leo or natal planets in Sagittarius that trine Chiron, that supports moving the energy, okay? That supports it having an outlet, having it being able to go somewhere else. And if you have any planets or points in the air signs that trine this Libra, then that helps too. So planets or points in Gemini or planets and points in Aquarius also helps to move the energy. The good news, and actually this is really good news, is that you will no longer ever again have to deal with that Pluto squaring these points. That was a once in a lifetime ordeal, and it was a big deal. Again, let's say 2017 to 2019, depending on these degree points in your chart, really big relationship endings, things like even if you fought to save it, it would have felt futile because of how Pluto removes. It just says there's not a connection here. There's growth that's required. There's energy that has to be transformed. So that's over. And what you're doing now is looking at what you've learned, what you are ready to apply, how you're ready to do things differently, but from a place of self-honoring. Because this Chiron energy is strong, and it's going to be strong over the next number of years. So I hope that has helped. I know this is just a quick video. There's so much more that can be said, and that's why I refer people to books that help you learn more about your astrology chart. For example, you might be interested in reading a book on Uranus to understand more about this Uranus in Libra. You might also be drawn to a book on Chiron to learn more about Chiron in Aries. But you certainly came in with the desire to understand relationship dynamics, to balance it, to look at what hasn't been working and what to fix in yourself. Because that's where your power is. That's where the healing is. That's where you could also see where you've overcompensated. Because these oppositions, like you could be all over, you could put all your energy over here and not have anything left for yourself. Vice versa, you could put all your energy in yourself and just be like, never mind, I'm done with relationships, I'm not doing that again. But there's something that will still call to you about how you share and connect. So this is one of your ongoing life dynamics and life themes, but I do hope that you are reaching a point of higher consciousness around it so that you can work with it in a way that is best for you and really helps you form those relationships with others that are meant to travel with you and meant to understand who you are as a unique individual. So thank you so much for joining me for this video. You can find out more about my astrology programs and courses below this video if you want to learn astrology with me, if you want to learn about astrology transits, if you want to learn how to read your solar return chart, or perhaps you're ready to just dive in to your natal chart. I have those courses and more below the video. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you back here soon.